and asked what your favorite Christmas hymn was. And by far, the top one was O Holy Night. And so I thought if I could have Dave sing again, that would be wonderful. And there's just such a wonderful backstory to O Holy Night, so I thought maybe I would share that with you today. O Holy Night is not only a beautiful hymn, but I think it's meant to be a solo because it's written much higher than I can attempt to sing. But there's a really rich story that goes behind it. In 1847, Placide Cappeau was a wine cellar in a small French town, and he was known for his poetry much more than his church attendance. But the priest came up to him and asked him if he would write a poem for the Christmas service. The poet was honored to share his talents with the church. And so he decided to write this hymn, and he used the Gospel of Luke as his guide, and he imagined witnessing the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. And thoughts of being present on this blessed night inspired him. And as he was traveling on his way to Paris, the hymn, which in French is called Cantique de Noël, had been completed. And so he decided that it was so beautiful that it needed to be put to music, but he wasn't much of a composer, so he turned to one of his friends, Adolphe Charles Adams, for some help. And Adolphe was the son of a well-known classical musician who had studied in a Paris conservatory. And his talent and fame had brought requests to write works for orchestras and for ballets throughout the world. And his friend asked him to put this poem to music. And it was kind of ironic because Adams was a man of Jewish ancestry. But he put beautiful music to the poem. And the song was performed just 3 weeks later at a midnight mass on Christmas Eve. And the French church fell in love with the song. And it made its way into various Catholic Christmas masses. But Placide grew discontent with his church congregation, and he became more and more involved with the socialist movement. And so the church religious leaders thought, well, if he had turned his back on the church, then they were definitely not going to be singing his song. And then, even more scandalous, that the music was written by a non-Christian, and so all of a sudden this hymn was seen as unfit for church services. Although the church tried to bury this beautiful Christmas song, the French people continued to sing it. And about a decade later, an American brought this song to America. John Sullivan Dwight felt that this wonderful Christmas song needed to be introduced to America. He saw something in the song that moved him beyond just the story of the birth of Christ. He was an abolitionist. He was very against slavery. And so he identified with the third verse. Truly he taught us to love one another. His law is love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Obviously, at this point in time in America, the struggle between having slaves and not having slaves was heavy on everyone's mind. And so this was published in a magazine, and O Holy Night became very popular in the North, especially during the Civil War. This song won the hearts of the people in France. This song won the hearts of the people in America. It also has a bit of history as being the first song played over the radio live. And so, in 1906, on Christmas Eve, Reginald Fessenden, a 33-year-old university professor and a former chief chemist for Thomas Edison, did something long thought impossible. Using a new type of generator, Fessenden spoke into a microphone, and for the first time in history, a man's voice was broadcast over the airwaves. And he quoted that passage from Luke. And it came to pass in those days that there was a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And people, radio operators on ships, and astonished wireless operators at newspapers listened as they were used to hearing Morse code, but now heard the professor reading from Luke. And for the few that caught the broadcast, it seemed like a miracle. A voice transmitted from far away, perhaps hearing the voice of an angel. And then he picked up his violin and played "O Holy Night," the first song ever sent through the air via radio waves. And when the carol ended, so did the broadcast. But music had found a new medium that would take it around the world. Since that first rendition in a small Catholic Mass in 1847, O Holy Night has been sung millions of times in churches in every corner of the world. And since that moment, a handful of people first heard it played over the radio. It has gone to become one of the most popular Christmas songs. And we celebrate the birth of our Savior. And we highlight the sinful nature of slavery to become one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever created.